It is the start of a new month and we are nearly halfway through the year. So let's talk about checking in with your sales goals, what questions to ask yourself, and how to make the best sales decisions going forward. Welcome to the Soulful Sales Show, where we talk about believing in the value of your offers, getting them in front of your right people, and selling more of what you do in your unique way. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Soulful Sales Show. I cannot believe we're not there yet, but we're coming up fast towards the middle of the year. This year has just flown by for me. It's kind of a little bit discombobulating, but what is helping me at the moment is being really intentional about checking in. And since we just started a new month, I just did a sales check-in with my members in the Soulful Sales Society. I thought I would bring some of those questions and share a few pointers here on the podcast as well, because I think it's really, really important. And I don't think we are actually checking in enough and taking that step back to look at the bigger picture of the business. So actually, that's what I wanted to start with, why this matters in the first place. Like I said, I don't think we do this enough. It's actually the reason why I added it to my own membership, to keep me accountable, because when I do these guided sales debriefs and intention settings in the Soulful Sales Society membership, I do it alongside my members. It's so helpful. And the one I just did, it just really reminded me how easy it is to have stories about what is happening. And then when we actually look at the facts, those stories can change really, really fast. That was definitely my experience just doing the process a few days ago. And going into that call and doing that process, I started out feeling kind of bad actually about the things that I didn't do in May. And I was telling myself stories about, patterns I thought I was seeing in my business and in my sales, and the numbers not looking as good and stuff like that. And when I actually took time to go through this process, and I'm going to share some of the questions with you in a sec, it was so clear to me that the stories in my mind, and actually it's more than a story, right? It's a feeling. It becomes our truth. They actually weren't true. And what was true, that I had diverted some of my energy and time to personal stuff, and that was what was needed. It helped me to access a lot of self-compassion around that stuff, which is actually very, very helpful for me moving forward. And then I looked at the month ahead. I looked at my goals for June in the context of the bigger picture, which helped me to see exactly where I should be focusing on next, what I could let go of, helped me to see what was going well, and helped me to see really clearly what I could improve on as well, without swirling in those feelings and those stories. Just tuning into the facts, tuning into what's really, really true, tuning into what works for tuning into my bigger picture goals. And setting my goals from there. Really, really helpful. So if you want to do a little new month check-in, here is how I suggest you do it. And the most important thing to start with is just the facts. Like, what did you do in May? I know that you might have feelings and stories about the way you did it, or what you didn't do, or how it actually ended up working or not. That's not what we're looking at, right? We are only looking for the facts. What is a fact that you could prove in a court of law? I sold this offer. I sold this many of them. I worked with this many clients. I posted this many posts on social media. I shared this many emails. We're just wanting to write down the facts. And it's something that you, as you go through the next stages of the planning process, will be just helpful to have it laid out there. Ideally, I think at least monthly is a really good time to get caught up on money tracking as well. And in fact, that was something that was huge for me in May. I had gotten really behind. I do my own bookkeeping, and I really like doing my own bookkeeping. I do have an amazing accountant to do that side of things, but I'd gotten really behind with things. Things were feeling really messy. I actually didn't know the truth about the numbers that were coming in and out. So May was really a great, May was really about getting caught up on that too. And that really helps with the stories as well. So I always recommend getting up to date with your numbers and writing down the facts. And sometimes the facts are better than what we thought. Sometimes they aren't. And that can be hard, but it's much better to be aware of what the facts are than to be burying your head in the sand, which is definitely something I've been guilty of, and it never helps in the long term. It feels like it helps in the short term. It never helps in the long term. Okay, so starting with the facts. Then I think it's really important just to allow yourself to process feelings. So much of advice around planning and goal setting is all very, very strategic, and it all sounds great, but our feelings actually impact the goals we set and the way we work on them very, very much. So tune in and allow yourself, get your journal out, allow yourself to explore what was disappointing you in the month that just happened. What things feel not so great about it, what things felt hard, what things you actually don't want to do anymore, that kind of stuff. And then I promise you will also have something to celebrate. So whether you had a great financial month and that is your celebration, or whether you didn't, there will still be something worth celebrating. So starting with the facts, then processing the feelings. And then next, we move on to thinking about our goals for the month ahead. And having written down the facts and processed those feelings, you are in such a better place to then set goals from a more empowered place. Probably you will find, as simple as this process is, the way that I'm laying it out, probably you will find that you have already processed things in such a way that some of those stories that you may have gone in with, either consciously or unconsciously, don't have so much of a hold anymore. And you will be in such a better place to make goals from an empowered place. I've said place a lot of times. So you don't want to move straight into just setting goals for the month ahead. You want to take a second to tune back into your bigger picture goals, because obviously there's a difference between what we're working on, what we're working towards in the bigger picture versus what we're working on a month-to-month basis. So some of your bigger picture goals are not going to necessarily come to fruition in the month ahead, but it's really, really important to have them in mind to help shape the goals that you are working on in the month ahead. And something else to bear in mind is that this isn't just about your bigger picture, like I want to be a millionaire and I want to have 1,000 people in my course or whatever. It's also about what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of freedom do you want to have? What kind of leisure time and activities you want to be doing? Just really have those in mind as well, because sometimes when we're setting a goal for the month ahead, we might be, especially if we were setting it from a place of fear and being stuck in those stories about how the last month has gone, we might, totally fill up our schedule. We might think, right, I'm not going to go on this trip. I'm going to knuckle down, get all the work done. I'm going to book in all of these events. I'm going to launch all of these things. I mean, that would be a lot for 1 month, right? But you see what I'm saying? And then actually when you tune into the bigger picture of okay, but this is what I'm actually doing it for, it can totally shift our priorities, even in the month ahead. So although the bigger picture goals are not all going to be completed in the month ahead, they will definitely shape the goals in the month ahead. And then when you've tuned into the bigger picture goals, it doesn't matter if you don't necessarily remember all of the goals you set at the start of the year, although if you have them written down somewhere, now would be a good time to revisit them. But it's more just about tuning into the broader picture of them. Once you have those, you can set your short-term goals, like how much do I want to sell? How much money do I need to make? How do I want to feel about selling? And stuff like that. You don't necessarily need to, usually I separate out the actions I'll take to make those goals happen into the next section, which is all about brainstorming action steps. So this is where, you've got your income goal, okay, how can I meet it? What are all the ways I could meet it? Just allow yourself to brainstorm. You don't need to filter yourself here. In fact, I also always encourage my clients to get a little bit unstrategic here as well, and just allow themselves to be creative. What are all the possible action steps you could take to meet your goals? And then you get to narrow those down into the ones that feel good. And I highly encourage you just to choose a few from that list. But it's really, really important to allow yourself freedom when you are brainstorming. Allow yourself to write down ideas that don't necessarily even feel strategic, just to let that creativity flow. You never know what is going to come up. All ideas are welcome. And then finally, you've got your goals, you've got your action steps. How are you feeling about it? Be honest with yourself. Are you feeling resistance already? That is okay. It's very, very normal. Allow yourself to express your fears, potentially even do a little bit of journaling, questioning your fears. Okay, why am I feeling this way? What am I really afraid of deep down? And the activity that I really like to get my members to do is to write themselves a kind of a letter or a statement to remind themselves of what they need reassuring of in the month ahead. And what I wrote for myself in the last session that we had in the membership was just so powerful and so helpful. I actually ripped it out of my journal and put it in my pocket so that it will put it in the pocket of the jeans that I'm always wearing, so that every time, I put them on or put them in the wash and clear out those pockets, it will be there and it will remind me to actually read it. Because I think sometimes it's one thing doing this work, it's another thing then reminding ourselves of it afterwards. And yeah, once you've done that, all that is left is to take the first step. So that is my monthly check-in process. It doesn't have to take a long time. Obviously, if you're in the Soulful Sales Society membership, we have a detailed process and we have a call so that we can do it together and have that accountability to actually do it. But it really doesn't have to be complicated. The most important thing is that you actually take time to do it. And if you're anything like me, you will probably have stories like, that's not productive. I've got more important things to focus my time on. But trust me when I say that taking a step back is so important for detaching from those stories, seeing things more clearly and setting those goals from a more empowered and helpful place going forward. And finally, I just want to share something with you. It is not ready yet, but if you are listening to this podcast on the day it goes out, tomorrow, so Wednesday, the 5th of June, my new $9 course is coming out. It's called Mid-Year Momentum. So what I've just taken you through in this episode is kind of a smaller monthly check-in. Mid-Year Momentum is about realigning to your goals around this midpoint of the year and creating a powerful plan for the rest of 2024. So whether you have totally lost sight of your goals, you're not sure what to focus on next, whether you are on track and not sure what to focus on next, or whether you have just totally lost belief in your goals, all of this stuff is welcome. And that's all of the stuff that we will go through in the Mid-Year Momentum course. And my intention is for you to leave that process believing that anything is still possible for you, because it's so easy to get jaded, right? Or tired by this point in the year. It's really about re-energizing yourself, reconnecting to your goals, and leaving that process feeling like everything is still possible. And I promise you that if you take the time to check in versus just floating around and kind of, not necessarily tuning back into those goals, you are going to see the benefits in your business in the rest of the year to come. So yeah, the process takes you through learning from your failures and mistakes, processing your feelings. There's a specific process to help you deal with any tricky feelings coming up. It's all about reconnecting with your goals and your vision, and then choosing 3 top priorities and 3 areas of elevation. And I have prompts to help you figure out what those are. And by areas of elevation, I mean things that you're already doing, but that you can improve on to boost your results for the rest of the year, and addressing any fears and obstacles that could come up along the way and get in the way, because that is often the thing that is missing when we're talking about goals and making plans. So yeah, that's Mid-Year Momentum. It's going to be out tomorrow, Wednesday, the 5th of June, and it's going to be at ruthpoundwhite.com/midyear. But whether you sign up to the mid-year course or not, it doesn't need to be really, really complicated to check in. The most important thing is that you actually take the time to do it. And I promise you will benefit as much as your, hustle culture conditioned brain might tell you it's not productive. It is very, very productive and very, very important for running your business in the way that you really want to do it. Okay. So yeah, go and do your check-in, and I hope that it's helpful for you. And I'll catch you again for another episode soon. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Soulful Sales. If you have a moment to rate and review, know that it really does make a difference. And if you'd like to carry on the conversation, then you can connect with me on Instagram at Ruth Poundwhite, sign up to my newsletter at ruthpoundwhite.com/newsletter, or my personal favorite, join me inside the low ticket membership at ruthpoundwhite.com/membership. And keep doing what you're doing, because your work really does matter.